you tell us a bit more about really, the first few years? And I know you have a phrase called rope building that I believe is part of how you think about development in that time.
Yeah, well, so I didn't come up with that term. There's sort of what's termed skill ropes, right? And I think that term encompasses this idea that again, I think that the Simsman Institute has talked about in terms of understanding development from the whole child perspective. The brain is not siloed off into separate functional domains that don't talk to each other. Yes, we do have parts of the brain that are responsible for vision and for hearing, but if you think about it, what we see has an emotional context. We get excited or we get frightened or we have an emotional response to what we see. So by definition, that means that our sensory systems are talking to our emotional regulatory systems. Humans are social creatures by nature. In fact, we know that one of the first signs of depression, as you well know, is a withdrawal and an isolation from the social world. Those are they each represent areas of function and behavior that we could call skills, because we have to learn how to socially engage, we have to learn how to emotionally regulate, and of course, we know that cognition is really the fancy term for learning, right? I think of them as individual ropes that are woven, and if you take the strands of a rope and weave them together, they're much stronger, right? And so that metaphor is meant to do two things. One is to demonstrate, to illustrate that these functions are interrelated to each other, and one doesn't develop well without the other. They depend upon each other. And the other is that when they do develop in this woven way, healthy development, brain development is much stronger. So these relationships are built over time. What we call contingent learning, or associating something that occurs, that happens to us, and an outcome. For an infant, it's seeing a face, seeing the eyes and the mouth, which is where they pay attention to, and then getting that food right away. That association is so powerful. Why do infants spend so much time focusing on the face? How do they become face experts so quickly? Well, it's those associations that are building their social world for them, and also helping them to emotionally regulate because they're distressed when they're hungry. The same thing occurs when they're uncomfortable, when their autonomic nervous system is not functioning well. It's that serve and return interaction that we call, which starts immediately. In fact, I think one of your questions you could extend back and say, the fetus is responding to the sounds of the mom or to certain music, et cetera. Is that serve and return? And the answer would be, from a practical perspective, yes. There's something that occurs, mom is doing, and the fetus is responding to that. And that relationship continues it, and after birth, and is so important in the first 3 years of life to allow the child to gain these skill sets. I think we talked about it. We mentioned it briefly that these are skills, like going to the gym and getting stronger, or learning how to do them. When we think about skills almost exclusively from the point of learning, how to kick a ball, or how to swing a tennis racket, or how to throw a baseball. But these are skills. They take practice. They take repetition. This is why repetition and ritual in early development are so important, because it's that which is generating the practice to be able to emotionally regulate under certain circumstances, and to be able to socially engage in a healthy way. And that's all part of the learning process.